It's time for Book Show with your host, the irascible yet easily influenced Danny Marks. Hit it, Danny!
Happy New Year, everybody! Now that that's over, I like to think that Book Show is a fun place where I can talk about books and make fun of them occasionally, and this month is not going to be like that, sadly. So over the course of November and the first week and a half of December, I challenged myself to read sort of the best of contemporary YA. And I read 6 books during that time frame, and a couple more, but 6 books that fit into those guidelines. And I, for the most part, was kind of spoiled. I was spoiled by them because it was really difficult getting into reading anything else afterwards, because I think I tend to read a lot of light, sort of paranormal kind of stuff. The writing was just so good. It was. And I wanted to hate it. But I couldn't possibly. Take, for instance, John Green's Looking for Alaska. This is the first book I've ever read by John Green, and I mean, considering the hype around the guy and the hype that he creates himself, just from the Vlogbrothers and just kind of being generally a nice guy, I guess, you want him to live up to it, right? And I think that he did every bit. The book was well written. It was, it had that kind of feel of literary fiction that I'm used to in the adult world. It was just sort of beautiful. But there is a but. I was asked by Melissa at the Metalhead Bookworm if I kind of had the same experience that everyone else did. And when I looked back through Goodreads and things like that, it seemed like this book had sort of a life-changing experience for a lot of people. That the themes in it and the sort of soul-searching that goes on within the book really resonate, I think, with a teen audience and with a very young adult audience. And probably not so much for my age group. And I'm not the age group that this book is meant for. I thought it was very affecting, and I love the ambiguity of it, and I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail about what happens in the book and what happens with the characters. I thought the characters were amazing. But something happens in the book about midway that I think everyone sort of is responding to, and I liked the ambiguity of it. I think that if I had not had some personal experiences, lots of personal experiences around death and loss and grieving and sort of all of these things, and not just loss via death, but just loss in general, I think I might have had a different experience. It might have been sort of this eye-opening experience. But it wasn't. I mean, it was just a really good book. No question it was a Prinze Award-worthy book. And for those reasons, I give John Green's Looking for Alaska 5 super secret hidden bottles of vodka. Jay Asher's 13 Reasons Why is told in a really unique and effective way through the transcription of audio tapes and the sort of mystery playing out of and this is no spoiler, a girl's suicide. And all the people who may or may not be involved in affecting her to such a point where she would make her own decision to take her life in such a way. I always have difficulty with books around suicide because I have... I take a very strong stance in terms of the fact that it is the responsibility of each of us to deal with our own problems in a way that is healthy and effective, and if we can't, search out the people who can help us. The book was very sad for me. I loved the changes that happen for Clay, who's the main character, and just sort of this growth that happens throughout the course of the book. And I do really enjoy the mystery of it and kind of finding out what happened or what led this girl to believe that this was the only way that her story could come to an end. But it's most definitely thought-provoking, and anytime you talk about suicide, you're going to have to be faced with a lot of stuff and a lot of memories and things that happen personally and, just how you deal with them. And for those reasons, I give this book 5 very shiny, brand new retro Sony Walkman. I'm going to go from there. You know what else was really good? David Levithan's Every You, Every Me. It was actually something that it took me a long time to settle into the writing style, because I don't know if you're aware of it, but let me get a good page here. He actually uses a lot of strike through type stuff, and I wasn't sure whether or not he meant that to be breezed over really slightly, like someone kind of, some kind of echoing in the back of your head rather than something that you would read straight through. That's kind of how I took it, and that's the way I read it. I was like, well, that's just sort of someone saying something in the background, like the girl talking to him. That's what I was thinking that. What I really loved about this book was that I thought I had it figured out from the very beginning, and as it turned out, where it was leading was somewhere much darker, because, well, I can't even tell you why, but it was leading somewhere much darker and much more ambiguous and unusual than what I thought was going to happen. And the elements of going through different photographs, it has a similar feel to 13 Reasons Why, in the sense that the characters are being led on a path that's mysterious by someone they're not, it's not clear that there's other people involved, and it's really quite interesting. And this was the first David Levithan book I'd ever read, and I was not disappointed at all. There were times where I wanted to put it down because it was just really strenuous to read. This was like, a strenuous read. Having to go through all the strike-throughs is very difficult. I'm gonna say that right out. But I think in the end it was really worth it. I would be interested to see if you could read this book straight through and just avoid the strike-throughs and see how the book played out, or if that has any effect on it. It's like one of those books that has like different possibilities. If it's like a choose your own adventure, I guess. It's a very adult kind of choose your own adventure, or young adult, as the case may be. I give this one 5 stars too, or let's see, 5 angsty teens. Speaking of angsty teens, Kathy Charles, John Belushi is dead. If any of these books has some angsty teens in them, it's this one right here. Hilda is our main character, and Benji is her friend. They are absolutely obsessed with celebrity deaths and all of the morbid details of each of those deaths. And they collect souvenirs, they do visits, they live in Hollywood, so it's a lot easier for them to do those kind of things. And they come across a man who lives in one of the apartments where someone has committed suicide. And another celebrity has committed suicide. And a relationship develops. It's all quite bizarre. The writing is very adult. I would hesitate to even call this young adult, actually. But I thought it was a very fantastic, super grim read. I give this book, to tell you how grim it is, I give Kathy Charles, John Belushi is Dead 5 stomachs protruding from a dead guy's mouth. I'm not going to even tell you which celebrity that was, but that's true facts. I actually did the research on it too, to make sure. Sick. So this may actually be my favorite of the books I read for Contempt Month. But I'm sick like that, so, take that with a grain of salt. Do with it what you will. Whatever. Like I said, I read a couple of other books that didn't sort of match up into these, and that's fine. That's fine. That's how it happens sometimes. So these are the ones I'm recommending. Yes. And that's how that goes. Next month, I'm going to be talking about the best books of 2011, in my opinion, of course. And I think I'm going to do 2 book shows next month. Both of them sort of aggregate kind of shows. The best of 2011 and the books that I really regret not getting to. That'll be another show. And we'll go from there. What are your favorite contemporary YA books? I always like to know those kind of things. So tell me.